Mekuna danso, 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 mekuna danso. My brother shake 'em, roll 'em, shake 'em, mekuna danso, mekuna danso. My brother shake 'em, roll 'em, rock 'em, mekuna danso, mekuna danso. Yes, boy, Mr. Victor. To have my money, engineer. To have my money,
No be small thing, no.
my brother, sister.
Poverty, I don't go nowhere.
I say brother, sister.
Poverty, I don't go nowhere.
My brother, my sister.
Poverty, I don't go nowhere.
From Monday to Sunday,
I dey on top my system, oh.
they tidy sequencing.
What the back and me?
I don't make my money.
From busy to a busy.
Oh, no, what a get go.
Make it carry the go.
Haba, oh, Sagi,
Iga malife.
oh, Sagi, oh,
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 Iga malife.
oh, Sagi,
Iga malife.
oh, Sagi,
Iga malife.
Hello. Joro mi,
Tomi joro.
kagi kwana fẹ́.
Joro mi, Tomi joro.
Unfẹ́ bá gbọ́nẹ́ o.
Joro mi, Tomi joro.
Ayé wúri ẹ̀.
Joro mi, Tomi joro.
Joro mi,
Joro mi, Tomi joro.
joro mi,
Joro mi, Tomi joro.
Pẹ́sẹ̀, pẹ́sẹ̀.
Joro mi o, Tomi joro.
Pẹ́sẹ̀, pẹ́sẹ̀.
Joro mi o, Tomi joro.
Pẹ́sẹ̀, pẹ́sẹ̀.
Joro mi o, Tomi joro.
Oserie.
You
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You've just been listening to the music department. We are just meddling with the music to keep you warm, and the actual thing is coming. But for this moment, we want to give you the unity song. Unity song. Philip. If you know it, please follow us. If you are sitting, you can shake your head, but we want to tell you, Nigeria, we are great and we will be great. Particularly Unijos is great. Great Unijos!
it that with pride we can call our own? Unijos is the only one, so you must walk, I must walk, we must join anew. And now is the time. Where is it that with pride that we can call our own? University is the only one, so you must walk, I must walk, we must join anew. And now is the time. Country falls. We must put hands together and save our UJ. Our UJ must be great, so great. Men and women of this great institution, arise, O country falls. We must put hands together and save our nation. Nigeria must be great, so great. Hear me so. Now unity is sweet. If you walk and I walk, and you just go sweet. Hear me so. Unity is sweet. If you push and I walk, make me join and you. Nigeria go sweet.
So, 1, 2.
Things we go make we great. Now unity be and we remain. Land need the food, eat the people they too. God, you bless us with better things. We get all the things we go make we great. Now unity be and we remain. Land need the food, eat the people they too. God, you bless us with better things. Hey. Together to make our Unijos pray together. Yana Ibo Hausa Yoruba. Mohada hana momogina o. Together. Maza together. Together, wow, oh yeah. Together, wow, mata mata, oh yeah. Una hear me so. Ah, you need just go sweet.
What a thing, oh, we, oh.
si como kagawiyo enji banjere si como kagawiyo so going in war Tigesundo a plato so going in war Tigesundo a plato so going in war Plato, so going a plato, so
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, our respected senators, ladies and gentlemen. We know you've been here since because you believe in Unijos, and we believe in the prolific guest speaker in the person of Matthew Hassan Huka, the Bishop of Sokoto. We have two announcements to make. Please, members of Senate who are seated here should kindly move to the rubbing room so that when the guest speaker comes, they will now march with him. If you are a member of Senate, please, we would like you here so that you can accompany the guest speaker and the VC and other guests to move down. So you may move to the rubbing room, please. Secondly, we have in our midst, I'm not the MC, I'm just trying to put things straight, the immediate past registrar of the University of Jos, in the person of Gilly Dandam Esquire. Please, an applause for him. Sir, can you come to the... So please, Mrs. Malo, please can you lead Gilly Dandam Esquire? There's a space for you here. Tall. Please, an applause for him. He is a man of humility, so thank you. We have a one-time bursar of the University of Jos in the person of John Dadut. You know, we respect principal officers. We want to beg John Dadut to be on the high seat, please. Okay, they are rejecting. To God be the glory. They are part of the system. Please, an applause for him. Okay, please, an applause for him.
Your soul and heals your spirit and makes you holy. Heals. So get in the music, in the music.
The music
heals your body, heals your soul and heals your spirit and makes you holy. Heals. In the music, in the music. Whether you fight or whether you think, it no matter the color where you went for your spirit. Whether whether not jazz, Afrobeat or dance, so you can do as you like. Oh, just a move on, get in the music, in the music. This is the time to get to the groove. Get on your feet and dance in shoes. This music is all about what makes you feel real good. Cause I don't tire for this wait where we dey wait. So it no matter the kind of music where we want to sing go. So get your guitar, your drums and your piano and get in the music. Hey, hey, want to whether you say no matter the chorus where you dance for your skin. Just a move on and get in the music. In the music. Whether not pop or whether not jazz, Afrobeat or dance, you can do as you like. Just a move on and get in the music. In the music. So you can jump down steps and then side to side, or you can go down and bounce, and you can go your head, or you can go your leg, go your head, or you can turn it around until you hit the ground. I don't care what you do, as long as you get in the mood. So when my guitar, my drums and my piano, I'm loving this music. Hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. No matter the color where you got for your skin. Just a move, and they grow in the music, in the music. Yeah, yeah. Whether not dance, just a move, and they move, get in the music. Come on, let's go. Come on, get in the music. All right, let's try what we did earlier. Are you ready? Let's do some yelele in this place. Hey. 1, 2, 3. Yelele mama. Thank you, drummer. Yelele mama. Oh, yelele mama. Hey, let's get in the music. In the music. Come on. Yelele mama. Yelele mama. Oh, yelele mama. Yelele mama. Get into music. In the music. Whether you fight or whether you sing, it no matter the color where you get for your skin. You know, just a move, and they grow. Hey, whether not fight or whether not dance, Afrobeat or dance, so you can do it. Just a move, and they move on. Get in the music. Alright, let's dance. Come on, 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 dance. Dance it out. Get in the music. Get in the music. Are you ready, people? Some music heals your body, heals your soul, and it heals your spirit, and makes you holy. Heals. So get in the music. We're gonna do it one more time. Some music heals your body, oh, it heals your spirit, it makes you holy. Heals. the music.
Change, 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 change. Hey, 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 hey. Ooh la 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 la. Ja, 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 ja.
See, music heals your body, heals your soul, and heals your spirit, and makes you holy. Heals.
So there's something missing in the world today. It's the one thing that can make the world okay. And it doesn't cost nothing, no, you don't even have to pay. Oh, it's about doing the right thing every day. For you are the light, and you are the sign. You are the only hope, keeping hope alive. Do the right thing, let the world see, let the light shine anyway. And when it seems like no one's watching, do the right thing anyway. Just do the right thing all the time. You'll be shocked to how the whole world sing it. Oh, 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 hey, oh. If the right thing is the order of the day, oh, corrupted mind will be your worst enemy. So I suggest you do the right thing, start it today. I suggest you do the right thing every day. And you are the light, you are the sign, you are the only hope, keeping hope alive. Do the right thing, let the world see, let the light shine anyway. And when it seems like no one's watching, do the right thing anyway. Just do the right thing all the time. You'll be shocked to have the whole world singing. Oh, do the right thing. Oh, do the right thing. Do the right thing. Listen, you can be a pepper seller or movie star. It doesn't really matter who you are. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. You can be a politician or a policeman. You gotta take a stand and do the right thing. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Let the world see. Let the light shine anywhere. When it seems like no one's watching, do the right thing anyway. Just do the right thing. Do it all the time. You'll be shocked to have the whole world singing. Oh, do the right thing. Do the right thing. we're a nation undivided in post. We will take our hands and build our land, our home, to defend what is ours. We hope to defend what is ours. We all we have will defend our land. We believe in this nation, and we know we'll get there. We all we have will defend our land. We believe in Nigeria and the promise she holds, and that one day we'll shine like the sun. We're a great nation. Though we are many people, different tribes, different tongues, we're united in our strength and resolve to uphold the honor of our land, and for generations to come, and for generations to come. We all we have will defend our land. We believe in this nation, and we all will get there. We all we have will defend our land. We believe in Nigeria and the promise she holds, and that one day we'll shine like the sun. We're a great nation. Nigeria, 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 Nigeria. We all we have will defend our land. We believe in this nation, and we know we'll get there. We all we have will defend Sunana dan gata ne. Akwai wani gida mai nisa wanda ubana ya gina. Akwai wani gida mai nisa wanda ubana ya gina. Ai ran da na kalmasa aiki na to ni zan koma gidan babana. Ran da na kalmasa aiki na to ni zan koma gidan babana. Akwai wani gida mai nisa sunana dan gata ne. Koma gidan babana. Kai masa aiki na to ni zan koma gidan babana. Ayo na gane, ai ni dan gata ne. Sarki aljanna, ai shi babana ne. Ayo na gane, wai ni dan gata ne. Zan je London, suka na ni ma da visa. Wai uba na bashi da naira, talauci bawo da shishi. I went to my neighbor, I beat to the shop now action. Kallon fim mun kwaɗayi ne, wai na zo don sun dafa masa. Ai da gidan ubana ne da waya isa ya kulle kofa lallai. Akwai wani gida mai nisa wanda ubana ya gina. Ai wanda na kalmasa aiki na to ni zan koma gidan babana. Wanda na kalmasa aiki na to ni zan koma gidan babana. Akwai daɗi gidan babana. Gidan abba gidan babana. Akwai salama gidan babana. Gidan abba gidan babana. Akwai haske gidan babana. Gidan abba gidan babana. Akwai hutu gidan babana. Gidan abba gidan babana. Sun kulle kofa wai talauci ya cije ni. Ai ba mu da bidiyo sai black and white television. Wai mun je kallon Rambo, wai mu kalla can daga window. Makarantar ma muna nai ma suka hana wai state of origin. Ai ganin gidan mu bana ne mai gori sai ya bani hanya lallai. Akwai wani gida mai nisa wanda ubana ya gina. Ai bayan na idar da aiki na to ni zan koma gidan babana. Na kai masa aiki na to ni zan koma gidan babana. Akwai gani gidan babana. Gidan abba gidan babana. Akwai sanawa gidan babana. Gidan abba gidan babana. Akwai haske gidan babana. Gidan abba gidan babana. Akwai hutu gidan babana. Gidan abba gidan babana. Okay, yawa ba wani waiwaito. Ga mu a nan kuma daidai. Before I had one square meal, I had to go through what they call rubber daidai. Christmas da awapa, wandon masa ta yadi. To, suka kira mu banza, wai dare da rana kwasa. Me, muka ci, and now we going internationally. Started from the bottom, now we headed to the top. Now the colors of the greatest get stuck without me. Okay, yanzu mu ne dan gata, arziki kaman dan tata. Kawo molo da algaita, dan gada kaman man shata. Ayyo, wai ni dan gata ne. Ai shi babana ne. Ayyo, wai ni dan gata ne. Ai shi babana ne. Akwai gida mai nisa wanda ubana ya gina. Akwai wani gida mai nisa wanda ubana ya gina. Ai bayan na idar da aiki na to ni zan koma gidan babana. Na kai masa aiki na to ni zan koma gidan babana. Akwai tani gidan babana. Gidan abba gidan babana. Sai akwai salama gidan babana. Gidan abba gidan babana. Akwai haske gidan babana. Gidan abba gidan babana. Akwai hutu gidan babana. Gidan abba gidan babana. Akwai salama gidan babana. Gidan abba gidan babana. Akwai haske gidan babana. Gidan abba gidan babana. Akwai hutu gidan babana. Gidan abba gidan babana. Akwai salama gidan babana. Gidan abba gidan babana.
Sure. Mic check, 1, 2.
Something very good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Shall we all rise for the procession? Indeed, it's a wonderful occasion. We want to thank you for being here. The procession comprised of heads of departments, deans and directors of the University of Jos.
We recognize and appreciate your contributions in steering the affairs of the university. Procession is still going on.
You are warmly welcome, our distinguished professors. We'd like also to appreciate you for your hard work in ensuring that our academic activities move on very smoothly in the departments as well as the directorates. Also, in the procession is the Vice Chancellor, Plateau State University, Professor Johanna Izam.
You're highly welcome, sir.
We also like to recognize His Lordship. I beg your pardon, we would like to recognize Monsignor Professor Cletus Gotan, who is the Provost College of Education, Gindri.
Congratulations on your appointment, sir. You're welcome.
And we warmly want to welcome Vice Chancellor, Federal University, Gashua, Professor Haruna Andrew. He's in the procession.
Wow, you're welcome, sir.
We recognize the representative of the University Librarian and also the Registrar of the University of Jos, Chief Monday Danjem, the Bursar.
You're all welcome.
The Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration.
You're welcome.
And ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to the Provost Chancellor and Chairman of Council, University of Jos, Prince Tony Momo.
You're welcome, sir.
We recognize with deep pleasure our most distinguished guest this afternoon, His Lordship, Most Reverend Dr. Matthew Hassan Kuka, Catholic Bishop of Sokoto, and our convocation lecturer, ladies and gentlemen.
You're welcome, sir. Yes.
Our very own Deputy Governor, Plateau State, Professor Soni Theoden. You are highly welcome.
Thank you, sir.
And of course, the person who steers the affairs of this great institution, Vice Chancellor, Professor Sadie Sebastian Memoko. You are highly welcome. We also like to recognize in the procession, of course, His Most Reverend Dr. Michael Goku. He's represented, I believe, by Very Reverend Father Paul Watpe, Vicar General of Panshin Diocese. You're highly welcome.
We would also like to recognize Professor Osage Igodalo, representing Chancellor Ambrose Ali University, Ekoma. You're highly welcome, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, without taking too much time, as we remain standing, we request that we stand still for the national anthem. It will be closely followed by the University of Jos anthem, and that will be rendered by the Department of Music, University of Jos. Thank you very much. We're still in standing position, please, for the opening prayer. We remain standing, please, for the opening prayer. Permit me to call on Very Reverend Father Paul Watpe, Vicar General of Panshin Diocese, to begin with a word of prayer.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. God, we thank you for this privilege that you have given to us to be here this afternoon. You have spoken to us in the scriptures, and you say, the only thing that can set us free is the truth. Here we are before you because that truth has been broken. We have come to learn more about how to live as truthful people. And so we pray, as we present your servant, that you have chosen to help us to live that life of truth, that we may have peace within us. May you guide and direct him through the power of your Holy Spirit. Open the hearts of your children who have gathered here to listen, that after listening, O Lord, we may practice what the truth tells us to say. Through Christ our Lord. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Thank you. Let's be seated. The story was told of how a small academic institution in north-central Nigeria became a campus of the University of Ibadan. The story was also told of how through hard work, the founding fathers, the government, and stakeholders of this great university allowed us to grow and to make us an institution to be reckoned with across Nigeria and indeed the world. Today again, we celebrate our brand, our products, our students, who have made us very proud and have brought the name of university into the limelight. The story was told of how the University of Jos opened its gates and welcomed distinguished administrators, academicians, captains of industries, public officers, to carry out its scholarly mandate and to interact as well as share ideas on the ways to move Nigeria forward. Today again, the University of Jos hosts a remarkable gentleman, an erudite speaker, and a friend of the people, Reverend Father Matthew Hassan Kuka, who is here to allow us to take a peek into his thoughts and perceptions and perspectives about Nigeria. Permit me to say that you are in the right place at the right time, having come from far and near. My name is Sarah Logas, and today we're working together, or I am working together with a fellow colleague, Dr. Nancy King, will ensure that you have a good time. And permit me also to say congratulations to our graduating students, and also to wish you a very wonderful time this afternoon. Once more, Your Excellencies, the Vice Chancellor, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press, I won't forget you. Welcome to the combined 29th and 30th Convocation lecture at the University of Jos. Thank you for coming, and do have a good time. Without wasting time, I'd like to quickly take introductions. We'd like to recognize first and foremost the Pro-Chancellor, Chairman of Council of the University of Jos. I'm talking about none other than a veteran journalist and an excellent gentleman. Put your hands together and let's make welcome Prince Tony Momo.
Ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause recognizing the Pro-Chancellor, University of Jos,
Put your hands together very quickly as we recognize also one of our own. I'm talking about the Deputy Governor of Plateau State, Professor Sonny Joden. You are most welcome, sir. Allow me also recognize other distinguished personalities seated at the high table. Put your hands together as we recognize all the principal officers seated on the high table. Former Vice Chancellors present. The Vice Chancellor, Plateau State University, Bokos, you're highly welcome. And let's quickly also acknowledge the presence of Vice Chancellor, Benue State University, Professor Nsu Kembe, representative of the Chief of Naval Staff, Rear Admiral S.S. Garba. We'd like to also welcome very warmly AIG Dorothy Gimba, Commandant, Police Staff College. And of course, Mrs. J.C. Kwazu, Comptroller of Immigration, Plateau State Police, Plateau State Command.
You're all highly welcome.
And of course, let's finally acknowledge all of our traditional rulers who are here present. Permit us, for want of time, we may not take you one after the other, but please believe us, you are highly welcome. Please enjoy your time with us. I will do further introductions if the time allows. For now, we'd like to welcome the Vice Chancellor of the University of Jos, Professor Sebastian Sedi Memoko, for his welcome remarks. A round of applause and thank you very much.
Your Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Plateau State, Professor Sonny Joden, who is also the chairman of this convocation lecture, our dear Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council, Elder Prince Tony Momo, His Lordship, Most Reverend Hassan Matthew Kuka, who is our convocation lecturer for today, Vice Chancellors of visiting universities, the Director General Industrial Training Fund, I have not cited him. Okay, he's raising his hand somewhere. Okay. The representative of the Chief of Naval Staff, Rear Admiral S.S. Garba. Okay. The AIG, Dorothy Gimba, Commandant, Police Staff College. Mrs. the Controller General of Immigration, Plateau State Police Command. Mrs. Controller of Immigration, yes, Plateau State Police Command, Mrs. J.C. Kwazu. Professor Mongsaino Gotan, the Provost, College of Education, Gindiri. I am sure if I go on, I may likely commit more mistakes. I think it is safer for me to abandon the protocol list and be myself. Deans and directors, heads of departments present, our esteemed guest, the alumni president, the former Minister of Water Resources, Mrs. Sarah Oshepe, clergymen and women, my own dear wife who is also here, Mrs. Memoko, I have just cited my paramount ruler. I never saw him. If I was to go by this list, it would have been dangerous. The Longumai of Gumai Nation. Permanent secretaries, politicians seated who have been invited and have honored this invitation, principal officers, ladies and gentlemen. Today is the day of our convocation lecture for the combined convocation ceremony for the 29th and 30th production of our convocation, 29th and 30th combined convocation ceremony. This afternoon, we are having a lecture by His Lordship, the Bishop of Sokoto, Bishop Hassan Matthew Puka, on a topic that has already been unveiled to you. My responsibility this afternoon, I am not the guest speaker, and I know people are excited to listen to him. On this program, I have been asked to welcome all of you as the chief executive of this institution. On behalf of the University of Jos, the staff and students, council, and our well-wishers, I warmly welcome all of you to this convocation lecture. As we listen, may we take the essential lessons of broken truths. And to God alone be the glory. You are all welcome. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for the Vice Chancellor, University of Jos. I'm sure you can do better than that. Once more, another round of applause. Thank you. Permit me, even though for want of time, to please render honor to whom it is due, even though the Vice Chancellor did recognize him, but want to also extend another recognition to the Deputy Chairman, Plateau State Traditional Council, the Longumai of Shandam, His Royal Highness Mishkom Martin Muditri Shelders III. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause. You're welcome, sir. We'll also want to recognize the Deputy Controller of Prisons, Francis John. You're highly welcome, sir. Thank you for being here. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to recognize the chairman of today's distinguished lecture. He's no other person than one of us, the Deputy Governor, Plateau State. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Soni Gwamle Tioden for his own opening remarks. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome, sir, the chairman of today's distinguished lecture.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you will agree with me that the protocol has been adequately and eloquently established by the Vice Chancellor. So I don't need to go over the protocol again. I adopt it as he has presented it with the corrections as he also stated. So distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are here for the convocation lecture. Let me start by congratulating the university on this convocation lecture, which is a prelude to the 29th and 30th convocation of the University of Jos. Over the years, the University of Jos has been one of those institutions that has been faithful in seeing that the ritual of convocations are kept to at least yearly, if not yearly, at least every 2 years. And I need to congratulate you, the Vice Chancellor, for that. Having said that, let me also congratulate you for having been able to catch the guest speaker you have today, Bishop Hassan Kuka. It is not easy to catch him. That's why you need to be congratulated. The topic he is speaking about, brokering truth, Nigeria's elusive quest for national cohesion, is thought-provoking. For anybody who has been concerned about the affairs of this country, you will agree with me that the issue of national cohesion is a central problematic that we have not been able to address all these years. So it is understandable that it's an issue of concern for all Nigerians. But the other section of the topic, broken truth, I found it difficult trying to understand that concept. You can have half-truths. You can have false promises. You can have broken promises. But broken truth, I crack my brain. I said possibly I need divine intervention to be able to understand that. But, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I believe Bishop Kuka will be up to the task as he takes us through the lecture. Bishop Hassan Kuka is one person that has been consistent in his perspective on the situation in Nigeria. He has two major passions. He is passionate about the issue of governance in Nigeria as he is passionate about his major calling, that is preaching the word of God. Which one takes precedence? Honestly, over the years, I have not been able to identify. He speaks truth to power. You may disagree with some of the things he says, but he does it with a passion, and he does it with a truthfulness that you can see in his face. And I think that's one thing I appreciate about him, and he has been consistent about it. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I don't need to bore you about Father Kuka. When they are presenting him, you will hear more about him. And as he presents his paper, you will be able to assess him. And I believe your assessment will not be far from what I have said about him. On that note, I want to once again welcome you and thank the University of Jos for giving me this opportunity to chair this occasion. Please enjoy yourself. Thank you.
I'm sure we can do better. Please, let's give him a rousing round of applause. I'll quickly just recognize the Professor W.B. Kurix, Vice Chancellor, former VC, Kaduna State University. You're welcome. Plateau State Commissioner of Police is also seated. You're warmly welcome, sir. And of course, the Commandant, Federal Road Safety Corps. As a matter of fact, he was one of the very early people that came here, and his men are doing a wonderful work at the gate. Please put your hands together for them, and thank you for being a friend of the university. It's now time to sit still. The reason why we are here is to listen and learn. Permit me to invite Dr. Nancy King, who is going to read the citation of our distinguished convocation lecturer. Put your hands together as I also welcome the guest lecturer to be on standing position, please, as we read through his citation. Thank you very much.
The Deputy Governor, Plateau State, Chairman of today's lecture, the Honorable Minister of Education, the Chancellor, the Pro-Chancellor, University of Jos, the Vice-Chancellor, notable principal officers of the university, Senate and Council members, staff and students of the university, friends of the university, the alumni, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Bishop Dr. Matthew Hassan Coker celebration of life began 65 years ago when he was born on 31st August in Anchuna, Ikulu Chiefdom, in Zango Katav local government area of Kaduna State. His educational career. Bishop Dr. Matthew Hassan Coker had his educational foundation in St. Fidelis Primary School, Zagom. From there, he proceeded to St. Joseph Minor Seminary, Zaria, and destiny brought him to Jos, Plateau State, where he studied philosophy and theology at the St. Augustine Major Seminary. He attended University of Ibadan and bagged a diploma in religious studies. He further went to the University of Bradford, the United Kingdom, and earned a master's degree in peace studies in 1981. And another master's degree in public policy at the J.F. Kennedy School of Government, Harvard University in 2004. The bishop reinforced his knowledge by pursuing a doctoral degree in 1990 at the University of London School of Oriental and African Studies. Priesthood and service. Ordained as a Catholic priest on 19th December 1976, Reverend Dr. Coker later served as an associate parish priest in Kaduna from 1977 to 1978. He notably served as a cardinal special assistant at the Catholic Church Abuja between 1982 and 1986. He was then appointed the Vicar General, the Catholic Archdiocese of Kaduna from 2011 to 2014. His devotion and dedication to God and humanity sees him today serving selflessly and tirelessly as Bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Sokoto. Contribution to nationhood. Besides being a spiritual leader, the bishop has chosen to add his voice as an indelible persuasion, politically and economically, nationally and internationally, to the governance and development of our nation, and to the elevation of mankind by agreeing to serve as a member of the Federal Government Human Rights Violations Commission from 1990 to 2001. He had a stint as a lecturer and was a dean from 1978 to 79 at St. Augustine Seminary, Jos. Appointed rector at the Junior Seminary, Zaria. He also in 2005 served as a secretary of National Political Reform Conference, again as chairman the Ogoni Shell Reconciliation in 2005, and a consultant with the Pontifical Council of Interreligious Dialogue at the Vatican City, Rome from 1996 to 2006. He also served as a member of the Electoral Reform Committee of Nigeria from 2007 to 2009, Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of the Governing Council, Nasarawa State University, Kefi 2004. Ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished lecturer in 2009 spoke on the topic, Democracy, Legitimacy, and the Struggle for Justice in Nigeria at the first Abraham Adesanya Memorial Lecture, and he said, and I quote, "Nation building is a hard project, and it is the task of humans and not angels." As one of his proof to these particular statements, Bishop Coker extended his passion, put his beliefs, reflected his politics, birthed his vision, and amplified his aspirations for the much needed interfaith dialogue by establishing the Coker Center, which he founded. Vice Chancellor, sir, permit me to humbly present this day Reverend Father Bishop Coker, who, in demonstrating commitment to his conviction on the system of education in Nigeria, partnered with Fundación Pro Futuro, a Spanish-based foundation, to provide digital skills for children in poverty-stricken environments in Nigeria by adopting technological innovations as a means of enhancing educational opportunities for all. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we, in the spirit of the 29th and the 30th Convocation ceremony, welcome with joy an fallible personality, a foremost prolific writer, an ebullient speaker, the Most Reverend Bishop Matthew Hassan Coker, to deliver the Convocation lecture with the topic, Broken Truths, Nigeria's Elusive Quest for National Cohesion. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. You know, I've delivered, I think, about 6 or 7 convocation lectures across Nigeria. Every time they start reading your citation, you feel like a criminal that the judge is reading, reading your judgment and will finally say, either you've been sentenced to death or you've been sentenced to 20 years imprisonment. Chairman of the occasion, Your Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Plateau State, my friend, my brother, Vice Chancellor, let me, as they say, and for obvious physical reasons, stand on existing protocols. I really want to commend all of you for being here because Nigeria is playing Croatia, and I personally would have wished things were different. I prayerfully hope that our being here and making this sacrifice will be justified. I'm very happy, and actually what the Deputy Governor said was the beginning of my lecture, or the title. The truth of the matter is, I personally don't even know what broken truth is. But when I got a letter from Professor Teresa with 1 or 2 suggestions, the Vice Chancellor was gracious enough to write another letter to me, cancelling the earlier proposition and leaving it open to me to decide what topic I wanted to speak on. And I think I was driving, I'm not sure, I don't remember where I was going, when this concept of broken truths came to my mind. And I quickly wrote it down with the subtitle. Because I've always been literally obsessed with the whole question of national cohesion. And my first reaction, and I guess your first reaction, is what is broken truth? And can truth be broken? Because in our limited understanding, as a philosophical concept, truth is unbreakable. But the experience of Jesus Christ during his trial before Pilate gives us a takeoff point. Because as you remember, in John 18:38, when Jesus said to Pilate, I have come to bear witness to the truth. Pilate says to him, truth, what is that? So there has, of course, been a lot of contestation around the concept. And I think, as you will see later in my presentation, the elusiveness in the concept itself, the fact that it cannot be subjected to any single definition. So just very clearly that is really where the excitement of the concept derives from. I know that, as we all know, when we go to court, a gentleman who is the accused stands, is given a Bible or given the Holy Quran and told to promise that he's going to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And of course, by the time the jury is done with his work, we know that sometimes we really don't know where the truth is. Ordinarily, people say that if you want to get to the truth, you better hear both sides, because people believe that the truth has 2 sides. That is, you hear your side and you hear the other person's side. But my argument actually is that truth has actually 3 sides. There is your side, there is my side, and there is the truth. Because it is quite possible that 2 of us may probably not be telling the truth.
So when I served at Oputa panel, Justice Oputa used to say to us, he developed a concept that for real justice to take place, justice was a three-way street. There has to be justice for the perpetrator, there has to be justice for the victim, and there has to be justice for society. But one day I said to him, I said, Your Lordship, I think justice has 4 legs. Justice for the perpetrator, justice for the accused, justice for the larger society. It is quite conceivable that justice for three categories of people may not actually constitute justice unless it is justice before God. Now, as you will see in my presentation, those who have listened to me, I've always been constructively cynical about the nature of the structure of the Nigerian state. And the concept that I want to explain in this paper or in my presentation is to highlight the deliberately distorted picture that has emerged. And I will find there's empirical evidence to validate what I'm saying. But my argument is that based on what our leaders have said, based on the promises that they've made, which they all promised to be the truth, nothing but the truth, our own collective experiences, even as individuals and communities, suggest very clearly that by their actions, what passes for governance in Nigeria has been a series of broken truths. Now, it was Napoleon who said that history is a set of lies agreed upon by those who write history. So the question is, where are the truth tellers? How did all the mighty citadels of learning in our country, along with the theater departments, the parks, the gardens, the staff clubs, how did they suddenly become abandoned and are now being overrun by weeds and cultists and drug peddlers and rodents? Who among us can forget the huge impact on me, despite studying for the priesthood, that the Faculty of Social Sciences in Ahmadu Bello University Zaria and other Marxist heavens in the universities of Calabar, University of Port Harcourt, Ife, and all other universities in Nigeria. Where are the colleagues and students and successors of the likes of the late Professor Bala Usman, Patrick Wilmot, Mike Kwanashi, George Kwanashi, Eskotoyo, Monde Mangvad, Claude Ake, Samo Yoware, Adele Jinadu, our good friend, the Deputy Governor? Where is the anger that produced the famous book known as the Kaduna Mafia? Today, to survey the intellectual landscape of Nigeria is to see stocks cut low by the scythes of the Grim Reaper. After the hemorrhage of the generation that President Babangida himself eloquently referred to as those who were teaching what they are not paid to teach, the university environment has become rather a conquered land of surrender, where playing safe has become the best rule for survival. As military generals who themselves had no university education began to take it upon themselves to appoint vice chancellors and even appoint some of them within their ranks to be administrators of university, so began the slouch towards Bethlehem, to quote Yeats. Today, a band of, in Nigeria as we talk, a band of illiterate so-called headsmen have taken an entire and are holding an entire nation hostage. A movement, Boko Haram, founded, apparently led by an illiterate, has taken the entire security apparatus of our nation hostage. How did we come to this sorry state? Will the next generation dream great dreams and hope that these dreams can be realized? Or will they forever remain trapped in the nightmares of the mass violence that has become our daily diet? What narrative shall the next generation inherit? Today we rely on comedians and other ephemeral comic reliefs to derive pleasure and relaxation. We have no Nobel Prize winning authors to celebrate in our universities. No academic feats worthy of international recognition. There is need to interrogate the consequences of the choices we have made or did not make and their impact on where we are today. And here, I turn to the first part of my paper, which is Nigeria, the road not taken. I've always loved to return to this great poet, Robert Frost, who is the source of my inspiration. Because his poem, The Road Not Taken, offers us an opportunity to speculate about what might have been had we made different choices. And my argument is to suggest that we are living with the consequences of the actions that we deliberately took. In the poem, The Road Not Taken, Robert Frost says, and I quote, just the first line and the last line. He says, 2 roads diverge on a yellow road. I'm sorry, I could not travel both and be one traveler. So long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled, and that has made all the difference. Even before independence, what would later become Nigeria had a rather distorted history cast in competing, even conflicting narratives and experiences. A century before the invasions of the British, the peoples of what is now the Middle Belt had lived with the traumatic experiences of war, slavery, compulsory conversions to Islam, and the destruction of their cultures and habitats in the course of the establishment of the Sokoto Caliphate. The scars were deep, but not being a literate society and with no written records about their own history and experiences, this subjugation was later to become embedded in the individual and collective psyche of those who survived. For instance, as children growing up in my little village, I remember always eating with my siblings and around our grandmother. And while we're eating, she would often say to us, "Why are you eating as if you are running away from Fulani people?" I had no idea what it meant, but I had to wait for 40 years to go to the School of Oriental and African Studies, the University of London, sit in a library, read a book, and stumble on the fact that in reality, what my grandmother was saying was an experience that she herself had encountered, namely, that the way the slave raiders were always coming to the villages across the Middle Belt was that on their horses, if they came in the afternoon, it was very easy to recognize because our people saw the dust rising as the horses were running, and they were running to hide it. Then the hunters for the slaves became wiser. They stopped coming in the afternoon, they began to come at night. And when they went around the villages at night, which were in pitch darkness, they knew where communities were from the family fires. So you'll be sitting down and eating, and then all of a sudden you'll be set upon. And it was that experience that made my grandmother, because then people had to eat very quickly, put out the fire, and vanish. And I think that was what led my grandmother to tell us we were eating very quickly as if we were running from Fulanis. I'm nostalgic about the days of Bala Usman and his radical movement, which enabled the generation of the time to address what the Marxists call the primary contradictions. And then they subsequently set up a higher ideological platform that enabled scholars of the time to continue to confront, again, what Marxists spoke about, secondary contradictions. The dreams of a non-sectarian society articulated by the left in Nigerian politics was more or less responsible for holding the fundamentalist excesses in check, because they were able to confront a rogue state and present to that state the unacceptable conditions of living in a country with so much resources but so little to give to its citizens. Today, an equally rogue state, or even more so, has continued to exploit its citizens. What we have had and still have is a nation that is divided, distracted, a nation whose elite are caught up fighting so many little civil wars and squabbles that it has no reserve energy left to fight for the larger society. As it rides roughshod over citizens, the Nigerian state leaves in its wake death and destruction. We now face the predicament of what somebody said. He said the axe was felling the trees. But as the axe was felling the trees kept falling and the forest kept depleting. But as the forest disappeared, the trees could not rebel against the axe because the tree said the handle of the axe is one of us. Now, this is what has happened to us in Nigeria today, that every bad deed, every bad action has extenuating circumstances. Because it will always be the case. Either somebody who worships from my church, or somebody who is from my tribe, or somebody who is of my own faith. Now, unlike first traveler, when we got to where the road diverged, we opted for the comfort of a much more familiar road. Now, what are the consequences of the colonial state that we inherited? Before independence, the British tinkered with the system in a way, a manner, that literally sowed the seeds of the problems that we still have in Nigeria today. And I'm not ascribing all the problems that we have had to British colonialism. Because when you talk about these things, people tend to say to you, but you've been free for over 60 years, what is your problem? In the same way that when we talk about Nigeria and I talk about military rule, and I will talk about it subsequently, my friends who are soldiers say, but we soldiers have left the stage. We left the stage more than 20 years ago. What are you complaining about? Well, our president is a retired general, so the soldiers have left, but they haven't gone. Now, it is important, therefore, that we understand. It's important that we understand that there has to be a context. There has to be a reason. There has to be a proper contextualization of the argument as to why is it that Nigeria is hemorrhaging so badly? Why is it that Nigeria isn't working? Because here we are in a country. Today the president is not a happy man. Today the man on the street is not a happy person. Today even those who are in power are not happy. The reasons are different. Tolstoy said all unhappy people are unhappy differently. But the truth of the matter is that we're living in a country where, except for the 90 minutes, depending on how Nigerians play, those are some of the only few minutes of our collective happiness. I remember Obasanjo once told me a story about what happened, when the Super Eagles begin to play and they are not playing so well. They always go to one of those Jesus songs. And it was one of either the World Cup qualifying matches or so, and they were playing. And he as president and all the ministers and all the senior staff, they were all sitting and watching the match. And somehow, Super Eagles, no goal came. So they started one of these Jesus songs. And then the Super Eagles scored. And everybody broke into laughter. Everybody started. So Obasanjo said he held his chief of staff, General Mohammed. He said, the goal has been scored in the name of Jesus. Why are you clapping? And he said, General Mohammed looked at him. He said, General Mohammed looked at him and said, a goal has been scored. Now we are all Christians. A goal has been scored. But really, the question to ask is, there must be a reason to explain why this country has become so distracted and so unhappy and almost so ungovernable, despite the good intentions of all those who have governed and continue to govern us. I make the point, therefore, that we must somehow return to the scene of the crime. And here we can start with the colonial state. It's not as if everything was hunky-dory before the British came. No. But I think to the extent that we need to locate where the attempt to construct a modern state emerged from. The design, the building blocks. If we don't do that, we will not understand why the house is leaking. We might say, but we've had all the roof and the scaffolding. Why is the house still leaking? And if you take a look at what the British did, clearly the British were very clear in their mind that they wanted northern Nigeria to play a supermost position. The evidence is there. In the area of education, Barewa College was started in 1922. And Barewa College was meant to serve those who will govern Nigeria. Again, the evidence is there. It wasn't meant for, it was not an egalitarian decision. But then, subsequently, indirect rule simply privileged feudalism. As a result, I come from, you don't even need to understand the geography, but from Zaria right through to the borders with Plateau was under the stranglehold of the Emir of Zaria until 1994 or thereabout, no, 95 or 96, when under General Abacha we had the first district created, subsequently a chiefdom, and so on and so forth. Now, this definitely would later on have implications for how our nation was going to grow. In the South, for example, that whereas Barewa College was built in 1922, In southern Nigeria, in 1834, almost over 100 years earlier, the Methodist Church had already established both a newspaper and a primary school in Badagry. And in 1859, the Church Missionary Society had already established a secondary school in Bariga, in Lagos. Subsequently, the history suggests very clearly that in places like Efilang and most of what is now the southeast and so on, educational activities have started in the middle of or towards the end of the 19th century. Now, when you have this distinctive break in periods of access to education, there would no doubt be consequences when you decide to bring everybody into one camp. But the British took 3 key steps. They knew, and those of you who are historians, I'm sure you've heard the joke, that had Nigerians disappeared, the British colonial administrators would have gone to war because their ideological backgrounds, their social backgrounds, their religions were so completely different that the colonial administrators in the south and the ones in the north literally were 2 sets of completely different human beings altogether. And they had different views about what they wanted Nigeria to be. Their compromise is what we have today. But that compromise has come with consequences. Now, 3 key decisions stand out. The first, for example, was that before independence, the British will create 3/4 of the landmass of what will become the 925 or 926,000 square kilometers of Nigeria and allocate 3/4 of that landmass to northern Nigeria. And that the rest then became southern Nigeria. But then in 1958, the British themselves were clever, because by 1956, with the movement of the motion for independence by Tony Enahoro, the British, it became very clear from the agitations, especially here in the Plateau and other places of the minorities. But this is why this city is so special. But from the agitation, the Willings Commission that was set up to examine the fears, the anxieties, the frustrations of the minorities, who were saying, we don't want to be lumped together because of the experiences that we've had. Now, the British themselves set up the commission. They later refused to live by the context of the agitations of the people of the Middle Belt. Northern Nigeria, the Premier of Northern Nigeria, simply decided that leave us in the north, we will sort ourselves out. The same British government and subsequent developments saw the creation of a Midwest region, whereas the agitation for a Middle Belt region were denied. The result is the fact that we find it very difficult to sleep peacefully as a community. So I just make the point that it's important that we understand that there's nothing wrong with us, but there is something wrong with where we started from. Very little we can do about it, but I also go to the second part of my presentation, which is to now look at the effort being made by Nigerians themselves after independence to quote-unquote both correct, improve upon, but also see whether they could carry through with this nation. Now, the coup of 1966, its impact have still not gone away from us in Nigeria. Because after that coup, subsequent developments, we saw the emergence of oil and the whetting of the appetite of the military, that oil now discovered in commercial quantities in Nigeria, and the amount of money that was now available. Gradually, one thing led to the other. The rest of the story is well known to you, but we ended up with a civil war. Now, I skipped through just to say, what do we mean by these broken truths? And the first is, let's go back to I've decided to limit the quotations, but if you have the time, thank God for Google. Just take time, just Google from all the speeches of the various coup plotters in Nigeria, all of them. You will laugh. Not because you will ask yourself, and that's the question I asked myself, because I became angry. And I was asking myself, what were we thinking? Because every speech was tentative. And you could see from the speeches that the people who staged the coup were not ready. Because if you remember, after every coup, when the man finishes speaking, he will say, please stay by your radios. Meaning that we are like people, you went to rob a bank, you have entered the bank, you don't know where the safe is. And we Nigerians simply sat down by our radios waiting for the next announcement. They had not made up their mind who will be head of state. They had not made up their mind what is going to happen. They have absolutely no idea. Now, when Nzogu came, Nzogu said that he has come to get rid of those who took bribes and demand 10%. Those who seek to keep the country permanently divided so that they can remain in office. We promise that you will no longer be ashamed to say that you are Nigerians. January 15, 1966. Part of that speech, if you read it, Nzogu actually makes another declaration because he classifies different kinds of Nigerians who were really going to be in trouble and could get killed. If you were caught raping, if you were caught, he listed all the crimes. But the most interesting one for me was when he said, if you are anybody sitting on the fence, loyalty to the government of the day is absolute, it's total. So they said anybody sitting on the fence sitting could lead you to death. Now, the interesting thing about the speech was that they now had to translate the speech into Hausa. And fence sitting in Hausa, the translator said, the new government said, if you have a fence in your house, you're likely to face death. But it is interesting because I make the point that we are not really here looking at good coups and bad coups. But every coup that set out to correct a problem ended up compounding the problems. Because if you read through all the speeches, all of them, right through to the coup of 1997, the so-called Dia coup, which they say didn't take place. I don't know, I'm not here to. But I have a text. I have a copy of the speech that was purported to have been written. Only the coup plotters didn't get a chance to. But if you look at that speech, it's not different from the ones that came before and the one that came before. Namely, the problems of all the coup plotters were corruption, we will fix the road, we will bring water, our hospital will no longer be consulting clinics, and blah, blah, blah. 40 or 50 years later, where there is no hospital that can treat president, governor, minister, or anybody. Okay? So, the hospitals in Nigeria are meant to treat children of a lesser God. If you cannot, so the question therefore, and this is where to locate the concept of the broken truth. Namely, that we may have been listening to all these speeches and all these promises, lofty, idealistic, messianic. But how come that we ended up with a treatment that was worse than the disease? Because this is where I think we now find ourselves. And if you go back, in 1983, when President Buhari staged his coup, I took only 2 lines. He said, we will not tolerate kickbacks, inflation of contracts, over-invoicing of imports. We will not condone forgery, embezzlement, misuse and abuse of power. Well, as you know, President Buhari didn't live long enough before others came. And when Babangida, his friend, came, Babangida said that the reason why they staged their coup was that General Buhari, please listen carefully. It turned out that Major General Buhari was too rigid and uncompromising in his attitude to issues of national significance. Efforts to make him understand that a diverse polity like Nigeria requires recognition and appreciation of differences in both cultural and individual perceptions only serve to aggravate these attitudes. President Buhari has given us his own reason why the coup took place. But this is the evidence that I have before me. However, I just skip through to make the point that what we have had so far is a record of consistent telling of half-truths, lies, innuendos, promises that those who made them really had no intention of keeping. And I think it's important, therefore, to understand this so that when we now come to start dealing with the issue of where we are now today, namely, I refer to our democracy today as a return to purgatory. Because we are not yet where we set for ourselves. And this is where I think you who are graduating must pay a little bit of attention. First of all, when I made this point, there is a group that calls itself Buhari Support Group. I wish they will have a little bit of more educated people in their midst. Because when I made this point, no, please, when I made the point, you know, this is a very interesting country. Very interesting country. Where, you know, a president or a governor, you either support a president or you don't support a president. There's no space left to support your nation. And people forget that these people are all actors who come and go. Nigeria is not going anywhere. But the point I made, because when I made this point, the people calling themselves Buhari support group, so I just saw it in the newspaper. I was being accused of calling the military to come and take over power. That's why I said, I hope that they will, if they went to school and they're really educated, that they will not read what they think I'm saying, but they will have the ability to understand. Now, simple. What I said was this, and I repeat here, that there are three things that have happened, three phases of our national history that make me happy and convinced that we have covered some distance. We may not be where we are, but if you remember an incident that happened, you may remember, for example, Gideon's coup. Gideon's coup failed in 1990. I was in England when the coup took place. We sat down, we monitored. But the reason why Gideon's coup failed was Gideon said he was going to excise some parts of Nigeria and send them out. Let them, when they behave and they want to be Nigerian, we'll let them back in. You go back and read the speech. Go back and read the speech. Now, it was very interesting. Gideon made this speech, I think, was it 1990? Yes? But by 1999, from northern Nigeria, after elected people, the governors of the 11 or so northern states decided to borrow the text of Oka by declaring Sharia and saying he had a lifestyle that was different from the one the rest of us wanted to live, and that somehow democracy was important, but only to the extent that it will help to consolidate their belief on Sharia. And if you remember, and if you follow the conversation, this nation literally came to a tipping point. My argument, I may be 100% wrong, but my conviction is that that moment, had the military in Nigeria not signed on to their belief in democracy, that was a perfect moment for a coup. Because the military always, you know, I once asked a friend of mine who is a military man. I was in Oxford then. He came to visit me. So I asked him, I said, how do they stage coup? I knew him because he appeared to us at a Oputa panel as a coup plotter. So I said, oh boy, how do people plan this coup? And he told me, what he told me was fantastic. He said, you know, what we do is, if you feel one kind, you know the meaning of feeling one kind in Nigeria. You know, you feel, he said, if you feel one kind, either because you miss out, whatever it is. So you go to the not Mami Maki, you go to the officer's mess, drinking, he said, oh boy, how this country be now? That's what we say, Amo. So, how are things? Meanwhile, as you are talking, you are the one who wants to stage a coup. As you are talking, you are looking at the face of the man. This is your friend, though. Say, so how will things continue like this? You watch at his reaction. He said, oh boy, I don't know. Then you buy him another bottle of beer. He's losing his tongue. So you go on and on. And he said to me, he said, if you get a sense from his, because if you hear coup and you don't talk, you are also. So he said, you'll be watching at his face. If you see sign that the man is bending on your side, don't go the whole hog, stop there. Then you keep going. When you've now begin to think of people who think the same as you, and you are holding your secret meetings, when you are ready, this was the bit of it that hit me. He said, when you are ready, when we are ready, we now reach our friends in the media. Then they start writing editorials suggesting to you that things are horrible in Nigeria. And that shall we with Nigeria, then you begin to say, you begin to feel guilty for eating 3 square meals. So this is why he said we set the tone So when we strike, this is why Nigeria will be on the street shouting and welcoming the new military regime as messiahs. Now, the point I'm making is, for me, that was one, and the fact that nothing happened. The military did not even attempt to stage a coup that didn't succeed. So just very clearly to me, their commitment to the project called Nigeria. Second was the health incidents of our late President Musa Yar'Adua. Again, this period of uncertainty was a perfect moment. But again, we sailed through successfully. Now, the third point, of course, is the elections of 2015. I can speak about that. It is a story for another day. But at least I can speak very authoritatively, being the convener of the National Peace Committee. Though most of you sitting here did not give Nigeria a chance. And of course, the evidence that is beginning to emerge is that there were people within who were close to Jonathan who were not happy that Jonathan considered the election. Again, those periods of uncertainty have always been the period that the military did what they did best. So I make the point that perhaps with hindsight, let us thank God that we are on the path to democracy. And that the military that have always posed a threat to democracy have hopefully signed on to the project. If that is the case, what are the challenges for the future? But before addressing those challenges, what has been the consequences of what I call broken truths? The consequences are, you can sum them in one single word. The word called corruption. I have been misunderstood. Maybe I've not been able to communicate well, but I'm convinced about my position. Not because it is right, but the evidence before me leads me to that conclusion. Now, if you know me well, I respect people. I really do. But I don't respect what I'm not convinced about. Doesn't matter who says it. So I will argue with you until you provide a superior argument. I am convinced that those who want to fight corruption, all of us, we mean well. But corruption is not a disease in Nigeria. It is, repeat, it is not a disease. Corruption is a symptom. It's a symptom of a disease. And this is where those of you who are in the university must understand that you have an intellectual responsibility to help our country understand the difference between light and darkness. People mean well, but there are too many good people doing terrible things because they are ignorant. What we are fighting, and we are fighting diligently, because if fighting corruption, which we started in January 15, 1966, if up till today, rather than reducing, corruption has taken over every arm of every length and breadth of the country, we must ask ourselves. A man is suffering from leprosy, you are giving him Panadol. It's not the number of Panadols, it's not the doctor, it's not the pharmacist, but Panadol will not treat leprosy. What we are engaged in Nigeria, even now, is recovering stolen money. Okay? There is a difference between recovering stolen money and fighting corruption. Alright? And I will explain to you what I mean. And it's got absolutely nothing to do with, it has nothing to do with what the president thinks, nothing to do with what the party thinks, nothing to do with what millions of other Nigerians think. This is what I think. I'm not asking you to take it because I said so. I'll give you an example. I was in Boston, and a friend of mine kept inviting me to his house. So we agreed that we'll meet after Mass, and I will go to his house for lunch. When we finished Mass, I celebrated the Mass. His wife had come for an earlier Mass so that she would go and cook for us. So as we were driving home, he said to me, what soup do you want to eat? I said, whatever. So he called his wife. He said, he wanted to call his wife. He couldn't find the phone. So we just drove. He said to me, Father, let's make an act of faith, whatever, because I can't find my phone. I'm sure my wife took it. And of course, just like old men, you know, a man doesn't find anything in his house, the wife must know. So we got to the house, and the man said to the wife, where is my phone? The wife said, I left early before you. I went for 8 o'clock Mass. What do you mean? He said, but you should know. The wife said, I don't know. So he borrowed the wife's phone. Somebody answered the phone. It was an American accent. He said, hey man, that's my phone. He said, yeah, of course I know that's your phone, you idiot. I know it's your phone. So my friend put the phone on speaker for us to hear. He said, I'm the owner of the phone. He said, of course I know, you idiot. I said, I know. I just stole your phone. And the man said, my friend said, so can I get back my phone? He said, you must be very stupid. You think it's easy to steal? Come get your phone. Now, this thing, it was very interesting. So my friend said, because at that point, my friend said, so what do you want me to do? He said, well, now you're talking. So anyway, to cut a long story short, he directed my friend where to get the phone, where he was. My friend said I should follow him. I said, I will follow this man now, go and die for nothing, just because of phone. So I said to my friend, I said, why don't we forget about the phone? He said, no, the numbers, man. He's a businessman. So we entered the car. He carried his wife's phone. He phoned the man. Then they started negotiating. The guy said he wanted $200. My friend negotiated. They came to 100. So he told us where to park the car. So when my friend parked the car, I said, old boy, you are going to collect this for the loan. Me, I will wait in the car. So I decided to wait in the car because I said, if anything happens to you, at least I'll go and tell your wife. So I stayed in the car. Then the man said, look, go straight. You see that phone booth? My friend said, yes. So you go there. Okay. He said, I'm behind the phone booth. But man, let me tell you, believe me, if you come with if I see any policeman, I'm going to blow out your brains. You understand, my friends? At this point, my friend was like a steward. Yes, sir. Yes. Now they went. The man stretched out the $100. He said, don't look at me. He collected his phone and then walked back. He has recovered his phone, but he hasn't stopped thieves in America. The point I'm making is, yes, we can recover money. Yes, we can steal. We can jail people, and we must jail people. We must punish all those who are criminals. But punishing corrupt people is only a beginning of the problem. Because if you don't go back to the source, this is why the corruption has developed a multiplier effect, and it's become more complicated. Now, I was in Oslo for a conference. I came back only yesterday. But somebody made a point, because we're having a discussion about grazing and so on. And one senior lecturer from Bayero University, he made a point that struck me. He said, look, all this criminality that is going on in Nigeria. He said, look, it was in those days easy to simply catch a man, collect his money. He said, these armed robbers were waiting always in the markets. You finish selling, you're on your way home, they beat you and collect your money. But now, the banks have changed the method of transaction. People are only doing a lot now. So even if you catch where will you? He said, this is why the thieves have become more sophisticated and they've changed their strategy. But the point I'm making is, we need to have the honesty to go back to the sources of corruption in Nigeria. And I have made the point, and I repeat it. I said, look, if you take a president of America and bring him to Nigeria, he doesn't have a choice. There are things that must happen. If you take an American president, even the worst crook, who is a president, and send him to America, he will not see the money to steal, despite wanting to steal. Because there are institutions, there are scientific devices that are now available that serve as deterrent. When I went as a student in England, before my very eyes, you went to the library, you borrowed a book, they swiped the book, they swiped your card, and you went away. Then you came back with the book. They changed. Suddenly, you didn't need to know anybody. Because the fact that you are a big man doesn't mean the machine will change. So if you have a situation where everything is being done by direct transaction, I enter the library, the librarian says, Bishop, welcome, oh, welcome. By the time I'm coming back from the library, I have books in my pocket. Librarian is busy doing something different, and there's no problem. Don't matter who you are. You drive a car in other parts of the world where things are a little bit settled. I don't know whether I can tell you this story. It's a true story. I went somewhere to deliver a lecture in a university. I won't tell you the country. And I was doing a short course. But the time they invited me for the program, I was in Nigeria. And by the time the program came on stream, I was away for this program. But they had told me they would pay me $1,000 for presenting my paper. When I finished presenting my paper, they said they cannot give me $1,000. I said, where's my money? They said, no, we can't. People that came from Nigeria with me, they paid them their money. I was looking. Then the man said to me, we cannot pay you your money because the law that brought you here does not entitle you to earn this kind of money. Because if we pay you the money, they will catch us. Despite being a big institution. But they found their way around it. I don't think it constitutes corruption. They knew the money was mine. They had to pay me. But what they did was, they have to go around. They wrote a letter to the institution saying that we have somebody who is here. No, they said, look, somebody has just given us $1,000 for a scholarship. And this scholarship has to go to your institution. But the scholarship, the man who gave the scholarship said it must go to a Nigerian. I was the only Nigerian. Okay. So they paid me back my money, not by breaking the law. The point I'm making therefore is that unless we have very strict institutions, we talk about institutions, but it is universities that drive all these processes. And my argument, and I remain relentless in my commitment, that this country will never go anywhere as long as the political class remains suspicious of intellectualism. We've not been able to recover from the argument. We've not recovered from what Babangida said when he said people are teaching what they are not paid to teach. The result, when I spent 7 years trying to negotiate the end of the conflict between Shell and Ogoni people. 7 years. I finally made progress. But I'll never forget, when the Ogonis went to see the president, he said they were told, they had a list of their grievances. President decided to see them. But as they were about to leave, President Babangida was generous enough to say, look, put everything down in writing. When they finished the meeting, Babangida left. The big man said, oh boy, this is, we don't have time. We don't have time. So don't write more than quarter of a page. Whatever your grievances, half a page is okay. We don't have time. Okay, we don't have time. So the guy couldn't articulate what the grievances were. It cost Ken Saro-Wiwa, he was part of that delegation. That reluctance to accept paper meant the conversation couldn't continue. I have a friend of mine, very good, he's a politician. Good number of them, most of them are my friends. But he was saying to me, one of them has been a governor twice. He served 2 terms. But he said to me, we were just chatting. He said, look, when I took this job, the people, my fellow governors at that time, believe me, I knew all of them. I got on very well with them. Less than 30% were clear about what they have come to do as governors. So, the beginning of corruption is not, my people say that the antelope is not afraid, the rabbit is not angry with the person who shot him. It's the person who made him leave his hole that he's unhappy with. So the question we must ask is, why are we hemorrhaging so badly? Because that is why we cannot raise enough moral revulsion to participate in this process of what I don't like the word fighting corruption, by the way, because I think, again, it's a bit unscientific. Because if you fight, somebody must win, somebody must lose. And if we take that metaphor, clearly we are not about to win the fight against the corrupt people. And in a way, my argument has been that there has to be some transaction. Economists talk about what they call incentive compatibility. Even the man who is a thief, there has to be some incentive that is compatible with what he wants. Because the man has my friend's phone. You can blow all your grammar, but you won't get your phone. And my argument has been that, yes, we can fight this corruption in multi-track. That is, those who will go to jail will go to jail. But in between, we won't jail everybody. But can we have a mechanism that helps us to negotiate with the thieves to say, I beg, Oga, we know, say you do this, how much you could give us back? Because other governments have done that. I know governments that gave their criminals 10 years. They said, within 10 years, we have the mechanism, we know where your money is, we'll come after you. But within these 10 years, you can bring back your money, build our hotels, build whatever you want to do, and let our country grow. Of course, Nigerians have a binary view. If Bishop Kuka is talking like this, means Bishop Kuka supports corruption. You know, when I made this comment at the beginning of the life of this administration, I'm sure many of you know that if people saw me on the road, they would have cut off my neck. My friends came to me and said, Bishop, people are angry with you in this country. They are angry with you. I said, yes, if they are angry, it means I'm telling them the truth. It's anger that led Jesus to the cross. Okay, so if they are angry, they are not angry because I'm lying. They are angry because what I'm saying is inconvenient. And I said to them, what I'm saying today, if you go to Google, go and Google Bishop Kuka on Channels Television. What I said, wearing a purple suit. I said, look, fighting corruption is important. But national cohesion is far more important. And that we don't have to have a binary view in which everything is either or. In any case, as long as we are still running elections that are structurally deficient, that are laden with corruption, elections that we know what we finally declare, we will be on this road for a long time. We are at the beginning, but let nobody deceive you. Elections will remain an investment in Nigeria, and the best candidate will not be the ones who wins. But then, you know the saying, if you take money from a leper, you must give leper a haircut. You can't take his money and discover he's a leper. So unless you have a situation in which men of righteousness and integrity take a particular path and they are followed by equal men of integrity and so on, if you collect money in the process of fighting election from a crook, his crookedness must slow you down. So the point I'm making is that our broken truths have amounted to a lot of other contradictions and distortions. This is why many of us don't seem to understand what democracy is. Our governors keep telling us about all the roads they are constructing, and I think it's wonderful to construct roads. But the most powerful metaphors for democracy are largely intangible. In the 1776 Independent Declaration of the United States of America, Abraham Lincoln and his people said, we are committed to these propositions that all men are created equal and women are created equal. And we submit to the proposition that all men are born equal. And that the principal reason why democracy exists, why government exists, is freedom, justice, and the pursuit of happiness. What pursuit of happiness means is a different matter. So a democracy must create an environment, the necessary infrastructure that enables everybody to thrive according to what their perception of happiness is. If you have a drum and you have a small cup and you fill them both with water, which one is more full? None of them is more, all of them are full. Both of them are filled according to their capacity. So I want to end by making just a few points. First, I read a beautiful book written by Condoleezza Rice. The title is Democracy, Stories from the Long Road to Freedom. And she says, and I quote, every democracy is flawed at its inception. And indeed, no democracy ever becomes perfect. No democracy becomes perfect. The question is not one of perfection, but how an imperfect system can survive. How an imperfect system can survive, move forward, and grow stronger. So contrary to what our soldiers thought, the solution to a bad election is another election. It doesn't matter how powerless people feel. And I think that the very fact that President Buhari is standing today as president of Nigeria is perhaps the best description of the fact that you can fall, you rise, you fall, you rise, your day will come. How you survive after that is a different matter altogether. And so, what are the paths to national cohesion? I think I just make, like I said, let me make a few points. The first is, We've made a lot of mistakes in the way and manner that we recruit people to leadership in Nigeria. If you read the literature on China, Europe, and America, and other places, the current Chinese president, you cannot get to the Politburo in China. Your record has to start from local government. Many of them spend not less than 30, 40 years from local government before you get to Beijing. It's only in Nigeria here that who is going to be our next president, we don't know. It depends on what president wants. Who is going to be our next governor, we don't know. It's in the pocket of the governor. Now, we cannot, it's not possible, because every race has to have some ambiguity. And what I mean is, there has to be some tentativeness, some uncertainty. The reason why we are all excited about the World Cup, will anybody, even if they woke you up from sleep and told you that Argentina can suffer the kind of loss they suffered, would you believe it? But this is why the game is beautiful. Because nobody is going to say, Croatia prepared well, because they know that the only person who will win is the one who has worked extra hard, not the one who prayed the harder, not the one who spent time on vigils, not the one who has left everything to chance. So our democracy will grow, but there has to be a certain level of uncertainty. Uncertainty, not in terms of whether or not, but uncertainty born out of the fact that if I work hard, I need to enter knowing I may win, I may not win. I may win, I may not win. That should make me work harder. But in a system where people think that because of where they come from, because of whom they know, and because of what they know, this is what is going to happen, there's no need to struggle. The third point, which I think speaks to all of you gathered here, is the fate of young graduates today in our universities. That is that we're in a country where, if I ask you, how do you get a job in Nigeria? My phone is full. Young people, I don't know where they get my number, but I've received so many text messages. They say prison is recruiting, road safety is recruiting, all of this. I used to tell these young people, go and write the exam. They say, Bishop, it is not about writing exam. They say army is doing recruitment. I say go and work hard. They say, Bishop, I saw my own, I felt sad that a lot of these young boys came back to me with the news that it was not so much how much work they did. And I keep saying, especially to the security agencies, if you have a situation where we don't know how you can enter the police, SSS, army, and so on, you rely on godfathers. A country remains in danger if security is in suspended animation, if it is recruiting people based on antecedents other than national. Because what will happen is that if I help you enter the army, if I help you join SSS, whatever, your loyalty has been transferred from Nigeria to an individual. Are we therefore surprised? Are we therefore surprised that the system is not working? Are we therefore surprised that the letter of the Constitution, the spirit of the Constitution, don't match the realities that we face in our daily lives? So, when I speak about broken truths, of course, when we talk about corruption, people, look, again, I know I'm likely to be misunderstood. In the White House, in Downing Street, Wall Street, everywhere, is corruption. President Nixon didn't just leave the American presidency. Hollande of France, Netanyahu. Yesterday, I just read a story about his wife, who is going to be probed. President Zuma, the whole lot. But the challenge is that we can walk and talk at the same time. The system doesn't have to grind to a halt. Today, as every country, we must find a totem. The Long Gemai is here. The Gemai people, just like every other ethnic group, you must have what is almost like a totem. That is something that when they call the name, everybody will keep quiet. In England, You may not like the Queen, but when they call the Queen, everybody will. In America, when you mention the Constitution, everybody will. In Nigeria, is there any, from the president, you see the thing they are writing about, from the president right down to, is there anybody that can tell the class to shut up? There's nobody. What that suggests is that we do not have institutions that command such loyalty. And if you don't have those kind of institutions, national cohesion remains an illusion. And because increasingly, people are entering, and my argument is in the paper, is that a lot of the reason, the crisis in the security agencies, military, priesthood, everywhere, the crisis in Nigeria is that the centrifugal forces have literally drawn power away to the periphery. This is a country where instead of dealing with the problems, we dig a hole to fill a hole. We have problem with states. Can we deal with the issue? No, let's create more states. Let's create more local government. Let's create more chiefdom. And as identities are mutating, loyalty to the state and to the country is diminishing. And this is why increasingly public officers are stealing from Nigeria, because the psychological frame of mind is that criminals only exist in Abuja. Back at home, they are rewarded with traditional titles. Okay? You're the only people who steal live in Abuja. Okay? People who still live in Abuja. And you don't expect your son to go to Abuja and come back empty-handed. There was a joke about a man who used to be, he was a professor in the university. And he was one of these Aluta professors. So when he got an appointment in Abuja, his mates were very happy. His people in ASU were very excited. So president of ASU called him, didn't answer the phone. Called him, didn't answer the phone. So one day he came, they ran into him. Oh boy, wait it now. You enter this place with no fear reach you again. He said, oh boy, table manners for Abuja. You don't talk while eating. No, you don't talk while eating. So I want to end by because I've taken a lot of your time. Let me try and end. This is our country. The young men and women of the University of Jos graduating the class of 2018. I would like to congratulate every single one of you. God's children, all of you, whether male or female, Muslim or Christian, whether you are Berom, whether you are Nagota, whether you are Angas, whether you are Fulani, whether you are Jukun, whether you are Igbo, whether you are Ikulu. You know, my tribe is Ikulu. This is the only time I get to pronounce it, because in other places, our places are empty. So at least it will go into the records here. Or if you belong to any of the other 500 ethnic groups in Nigeria, I want to leave you with propositions. I've spoken to you about broken truths. The question is, who will write the real truth of this great country, as well as right the wrongs of the past leaders? Is it the historian? Is it the office holder? The writers are right here. And I have a message for you. You may have worked hard day and night, and you've done what the school required of you and its administrators. That is why you are here today. You have done what is expected of you, but sometimes it looks like your country and its leaders may have not paid their dues to you. And so somehow you remain timid and you whisper among yourself and you grumble. We have been told that a bill called Not Too Young to Run has been passed. But don't be deceived. All that bill says is that those who are powerful will hand over to their children at a different age. So I remember, after all, you don't need a bill to go to Transcorp Hilton to go and sleep. You can be the son of, whether you need money. So the bill itself is a rather redundant document, in my view. It was Fela who said, human rights are my property. So therefore, you cannot dash me my property. Freedom to contest for any position and participate in Nigerian politics within the confines of the law is freedom that nobody can give to you. The future is yours. This country also. And this is the most pertinent thing I'm here to tell you. And I know something else. The leaders of today dominated and ruled the affairs of our country in their time. And it seems that they seek to dominate and rule the affairs of this country even in years to come. Decades ago, a Greek poet named Dinos Christianopoulos wrote a line. And he said, "What didn't you do to bury me? You did everything possible to bury me, but you forgot I was a seed." And scripture says, unless a seed falls to the ground and dies, it cannot bear fruit. The dead will never die in vain. And I'm talking about the hundreds and thousands of young people who have died right across the length and breadth of this country. But I'll leave you with a proposition. We all owe the dead a tribute. During the First World War, 1914 to 1918, between 20 and 30 million lives were lost. 2 years later, the world powers created what came to be known on the 20th of June as the League of Nations. 10th of June 1920. The Second World War, 1939 to 45, claimed over between 80 and 100 million lives. Barely 1 month later, and after it ended on September 2nd, 1945, the United Nations was born on October 24th, 1945. By the 10th of December in 1948 in Paris, the world powers officially ratified the Universal Human Rights Declaration, a life-changing decision. My dear graduates, you are stepping into a country that is at war with itself. However, reconstructing that world is your challenge. Your certificate is more than 1,000 armored tanks. Your certificate, a single one of you with a certificate, is worth more than 1,000 bandits, murderers, and assassins, by whatever name they are called. Let me end by paraphrasing something I've often used. A catapult with a stone in my hands might succeed in frightening a bird, but a catapult and a stone in the hands of David killed Goliath. It depends on whose hands it is on. A tennis racket in my hands might hit a ball across the net, but a tennis racket in the hands of Serena Williams is worth millions of dollars. It depends on whose hands it is in. A soccer ball before me is nothing more than an inflated leather, but on the feet of Ronaldo or Messi, it is worth millions of dollars. It depends on whose feet it is on. A certificate from the University of Jos is perhaps just a piece of paper, but with it, Yakubu Dogara is now the Speaker of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It depends on whose hands it is on. So, my dear friends, let your certificates be your roadmap. With them, you can form the strongest army in the world and conquer all the headsmen and women in the world. With it, you can defeat death and its sponsors. With your certificates, you can cross any ocean, climb any mountain, and make the sky only a stepping stone for your dreams. The future is before you, a wide one, open, limitless frontiers of possibilities. When I was negotiating with young people in Ogoni land, I said to them, you know, the federal government you must stop vandalizing these pipelines. Because the federal government says, if the oil is not flowing, you yourself the government will not be able to fulfill its duties. We were talking, one boy said, Father, vandalization na Abuja language, it's Abuja language. I looked at it. He said, it's Abuja language of our oppressors in Abuja. He said, we here, we beg government for school. They told us, relax, school is in the pipeline. We beg them for job. They tell us job is in the pipeline. We say our people are dying, we want hospital. They say, so we are opening the pipeline to see the promises that government has made to us. I call on you to help to create a new, united and a strong Nigeria where no broken truths exist. I call on you to live your dreams and fear no one. Live for the truth. God bless you and thank you very much.
you very much. Please, let's keep the applause. Please, let's keep the applause. Thank you. I had said earlier that you're going to have a good time. And if you're sure you did, please let's put our hands once more. We want to most sincerely thank His Lordship, Catholic Bishop of Sokoto, and our convocation lecturer, Most Reverend Dr. Matthew Hassan Kuka. You have met our expectations and we will remain indebted to you for taking time out of your huge schedule to help us take a peek into your thoughts and perspectives about our great nation, Nigeria. You have carefully articulated these thoughts in the convocation lecture titled Broken Truths, Nigeria's Elusive Quest for National Cohesion. Once more, we deeply appreciate you and the time you have taken to be part of this great event. We're very grateful. We want to take a brief moment to quickly recognize a few personalities. Put your hands together as we recognize former Minister of Water Resources and a member of the family, wife of the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Academics, University of Jos. I'm talking about Mrs. Sarah Reng Ochepe. She's already seated. We appreciate your presence. And also to recognize a member of the family, Unijos family, Professor Viola Onwuliri, former Minister of Foreign Affairs. She's also here. Thank you very much, ma'am. We also wish to recognize former Executive Chairman, Christian Pilgrims Commission, John Kennedy Opara. He's seated. You're most welcome. And also, Dr. Obadiah Melafia is seated. He's the former Deputy Governor, Central Bank of Nigeria. And we want to also thank the arrowhead of the Alumni Association. I'm talking about the National Chairman of the University of Jos Alumni Association. He's seated at the high table. A round of applause. You are most welcome. We'll just take a brief moment, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, to entertain you with some traditional dancing. We won't take too much of your time, so sit back and enjoy these performances. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen in the crowd, can you please clear the aisle? Kindly clear the aisle so that our performers can come right up. While we await the dancers, I also like to acknowledge the wife of the Vice Chancellor, University of Jos, Mrs. Memoko. She's on the high table. Ladies and gentlemen, let's acknowledge her with a warm applause. I know I did mention, but I'm going to repeat it because they are members of the House. Put your hands together for Professor Andrew Haruna, Vice Chancellor, Federal University, Gashua, and also Professor Johanna Izam, Vice Chancellor, Plateau State University. Enjoy the performances.
Pama kuje bedoji wasana. Pama kuje bedoji wasana. Yang Allah banang Allah ba. Yang Allah kamana si soro. Na si soro biladama suna hajjuke zama. Girgin saka mai wuyan saka. Ana saka wa ina warwarewa. Dariya gaya. Sabo balaya ba. Sabo balaya ba. Pama kuje bedoji wasana. Pama kuje bedoji darausa. Pama kuje bedoji lambirin. Yau da gobe zama kogi lambirin zamu koma ji zama. Yan Allah ba nan Allah ba. Kyawun da ya gaje wuba. Kyawun da ya gaje wuba. Ni ya juma a jangare. Ni ya boya a gyarma. Gidi da wuyar wa sabo. Gidi da wuyar wa sabo. Yan Allah ba nan Allah ba. Ebe mu roki Allah mu gani de. Ya ne mu roki Allah mu gani. Gidi da wuyar wa sabo. Dariya gaya. Pama kuje ni ajuma. Hankali ya bizimi ko. Hankali ya bizimi ko. Gidi da wuyar wa ga sabo. Gidi da wuyar wa ga sabo. Ya Allah ba nan Allah ba. Ya Allah kama na ji soro. Na ji soro biladama suna rike zama. Girgin saka mai wuyan saka. Girgin saka mai wuyan saka. Ana saka wa ina warwarewa. Kyawun da ya gaje wuba. Ginin Allah mai wuyan rushe. Ginin Allah mai wuyan rushe. Ginin Allah mai wuyan rushe. Tuwon kasa rubon kare. Rigan karara ban saro ba. Dariya gaya. Dariya gaya. Dariya na ba mu goba. Dariya na mzon abu dede. Dariya na mzon abu dede. Sabo balaya ba. Gidi da wuyar wa ga sabo. Gidi da wuyar wa sabo. A hankali ya bizimi ko. A hankali ya bizimi ba. Dariya gaya. Dariya gaya. Dariya na ba mu goba. Yau da gobe sallah gade. Yau da gobe sallah gade. Insha Allah gade nganabi gada. Insha Allah gade nganabi gada. Ginin Allah mai wuyan rushe. Ginin Allah mai wuyan rushe. Yau da gobe zama gida. Yau da gobe zama gida. Da gurgudu babur kemko. Da gurgudu dan barir kemko. Das kom gurgudu dan barir kemkon. Ya Allah bana Allah ba. Ya Allah kama na ji soro. Ya Allah kama na ji soro. Pama kuje na juma. Pama kuje na juma jangare. Ni ya juma a jangare.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you for the performance. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. The masquerade dancers from Shandam, thank you so much. We'll take next the Kalangu dancers briefly, quickly. Student? Theater and film art students, your performance quickly. Ladies and gentlemen, permit us to please take these few performances for your enlightenment.
After them, then the Alabuta, then the last one, then Kalangu.
Quickly. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, students of theater and film arts. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just a tip of the iceberg to let you know that this is what you will expect much more later in the evening at the open air theater. The highlight of the convocation drama will take place there. And so they're saying welcome. Thank you, students of the theater and film arts department. We appreciate your performance. And we look forward to seeing you later in the evening. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Probably I will say freeze. Slow motion. Thank you. Fade out. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please, brief announcement, all members of Senate to please tomorrow assemble at 8 a.m. at the Center for Entrepreneurship. From there, you'll proceed to the arena for the convocation. All members of Senate, please, tomorrow 8 a.m. We'll at this time also invite the host community, the Anagota dancers, for their own performance. Ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. We're in no doubt that the dexterity Thank you, Anaguta dancers. Yes. That is the spice on the plateau. We'll now take the Kalagu dancers, but as they come in, members of council too are to please assemble at 8 a.m. at the Entrepreneurship Center tomorrow. From there we proceed to the arena. Please have been informed that the convocation lecture booklet is available at the exit or the entrance. Please, a copy goes for 500 naira. The convocation lecture by the bishop himself. Copies are available at the entrance. 500 naira only. They're paying homage. These are the traditional dancers from the Vice Chancellor's hometown. Directly from the Vice Chancellor's hometown, Bakin Chiawa, Shandam local government area. We'll be a little bit partial to just give them one more minute or some few seconds. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Please, we're so sorry for misinforming you concerning the... Okay, they're outside now. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate your performance and your greetings as you celebrate one of your own. Thank you for such colorful display of culture and tradition. From the attire to the dexterity of the dance steps and music. As you can see, the Vice Chancellor himself is moving to rhythm. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Mungo de Dubungeswa. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Well, with this particular traditional dance performance from Bakin Chiawa Shandam local government, like I said, directly from the hometown of the Vice Chancellor himself, we'll usher him as he presents the traditional gift to our distinguished guest lecturer. Sorry, sir, we'll invite.
As an amendment, may I invite the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council to please join me. Chairman, sir, we are about presenting the traditional gift to the convocation lecturer. But before doing this, we just want you to address our audience in a few minutes as the chairman directs. Thank you, sir.
Our convocation lecturer, the Deputy Governor Chairman of this occasion, the Vice Chancellor and members of management, the students are graduates in equity. You will soon be graduates in law after tomorrow. It's a great, great day. We're all going to relive tomorrow. You won't believe it. I did it in 1967. I also did it in 1974. And to think of those years when we look forward to this day and how we have lived and lived and lived and lived, living from day to day, praying from day to day, achieving from day to day. What the lecturer gave us today is reminiscences of what he himself did many, many, many times over. We are happy to be here, and I pray that you will perform much, much better than we did. Say amen. Amen. I pray that you will perform much, much better than we did. Amen. We pray that you will perform much, much better than we did. Amen. You are the leaders of today. You are the leaders of today. And believe me when I say that you are the leaders of today. And this university is arming you to achieve more than we did. May God grant. Thank all of us for coming here. And our own guest lecturer, I've known him for so many years. And when I was told he was one coming, I say, I know he's the one who will give us what we need. And I think we are all fed to the throat with the goodies that you gave us today. We thank you very much. So, VC, you say I should give instructions. I give you instructions to continue.
As the chairman pleases, may I now invite the convocation lecturer to join us here. You see, when I first mentioned it to him, that we are proposing him as the guest or convocation lecturer, he told me that he has so many of these things, he could not possibly come. I persuaded him. And in the process, I reminded him about something that happened. And it happened when we traveled for going global in London. Although you told us the story about your friend whose phone was stolen and who accused his wife for the missing phone, I also reminded you that you also misplaced your phone in London. But his was not stolen. He misplaced it in a train. And I had to call a close friend of his, and they dialed the number. And luckily for him, it was a Nigerian who was working in this British rail system that picked the phone, and he went and collected it. His Lordship, congratulations. We have listened to you, We've had you. When you started, you said this, that you too, you don't even know what broken truths mean. But the lecture was quite stimulating. We are happy that you have lived up to the expectation of the audience. And on behalf of the university, I present this modest gift in appreciation of your acceptance and the delivery of today's lecture. Congratulations. This one is what? Bishop, come back, I beg. I saw our students, particularly the leadership here. This souvenir is from them. Here we call them SUG, meaning Students' Union Government. They have an executive arm as well as a legislative arm. And they are very powerful. And they can when they sing a Luther, the Vice Chancellor would address his seat. So, on their behalf, I have this honor to present this coming from. I think they want you to place this. I don't know where they. Where is the president? The president. I saw him somewhere seated there. And the parliamentary speaker. Can you please rush? His Lordship wants to have a snapshot with you. Rush. Is a trophy. It's a trophy. Yeah, nice. Okay. Okay, come for the presentation. Extend your hand. So, congratulations. So, may I now invite the DVC academic to give the vote of thanks, and we'll leave here shortly.
Good afternoon. The chairman of the occasion and Deputy Governor, Plateau State, the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council, His Lordship, and Bishop of Sokoto, and the guest lecturer, the Vice Chancellor, Vice Chancellors of visiting universities, Provost of College of Education, Commissioner of Police, Representative of the Naval Staff, Chief of Naval Staff, Representative of Controller, Prisons, Controller, Nigerian Immigration, Plateau State, Commandant, Police Staff College, representative of the sector commander, Federal Road Safety Commission, Plateau State, representative of the Plateau State Traditional Council, the Longumai of Shendan, Director General, Chief Executive, NMC, DC, the long list of protocol, which I would at this point want to align myself to, members of Senate, staff and students of the University of Jos. You agree with me that the Lord has been good indeed, that we are privileged to be alive, to listen to this very challenging lecture. And I believe that because we have listened, we will not be the same. And we've been given a very good food for thought. I would like to therefore, on behalf of the students, the staff, the management, and with the permission of the council chairman, the council of this university, say a very big thank you to every person that has been witnessed this occasion this day. And our prayers is that the Lord will take you back safely in Jesus' name. Thank you and God bless. Happened too fast for them.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of today's occasion. We will invite the students of the Department of Music as we get ready to take the national anthem. But before we do that, we'll invite Professor M.T. Umar to please close us with a word of prayer. Professor M.T. Umar. Saw him seated. Yes, sir. Thank you. As Prof gets ready or his approaches, please, we want to invite you to the Open Air Theater for the convocation performance, a night of entertainment varieties from the Department of Theatre and Film Arts to celebrate every graduate from the university in the various departments and faculties. Professor Umar, sir.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين أما بعد السلام عليكم. We're sincerely thankful to Almighty Allah for bringing us to the end of this thought-provoking lecture. We hope and pray for the lecturer as he came down from Sokoto to go back to his destination safely. And for all those that came from various places, may they also reach their destinations safely, and may the remaining parts of the activities for the convocation be also concluded peacefully in the name of Allah, most merciful, most graceful, beneficent. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in ihdinas siratal mustaqim siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghayril maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amen.
Okay, the students of the Department of Music, the national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please be on our feet? We want to thank God indeed. It has been an insightful day, quite productive. The national anthem, please. Thank you, students of the Music Department, University of Jos. Please, we'll clear the aisle as we take the procession in the reverse order. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome. Thank you once again for coming. The procession, please, in reverse order. Can we kindly clear the aisle? Please kindly clear the aisle as the procession takes place in reverse order. On behalf of the Vice Chancellor, University of Jos, Professor C.D. Memoko, and all the management, principal staff, members of Senate and members of Council, we once again welcome you and thank you for being a part of this great occasion today. It's indeed quite memorable. It's going down in the annals of history as we celebrate the 29th and the 30th Convocation of the University of Jos combined. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the University Stadium. Time is 9 a.m. and you're all highly welcome. Thank you once again to our distinguished guest lecturer, the most Reverend Bishop Dr. Matthew Hassan Kuka. We thank you once again, sir, for that very, very insightful and provoking lecture. Thank you to the friends of University of Jos, all the security parastatals. We appreciate your presence. Thank you for partnering with us. The Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Admin. You're all welcome. Thank you, sir. The Deputy Governor, Plateau State, all the traditional rulers. We thank you. The wife of the Vice Chancellor. You're welcome, ma. We thank you also for being here. We also recognize the wife of the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Honorable Sarah Ochekwe. You're also welcome. Thank you. The Chairman, Council of Traditional Rulers, Plateau State, the Longumai. You're welcome, Your Royal Highness. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you. Thank you, Prof. You're welcome, Professor Haggai. All deans, all head of departments, directorates, heads of directorates, you're all welcome. We truly want to appreciate the road safety. We thank you. To the police, we say thank you. To the manual, we say thank you. To the military, we say thank you. To the ushers, thank you for doing a great job and bringing order. Thank you. Auntie Jess, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please, we once again want to remind you of the performance at the Open Air Theatre. It's going to take place right about now. Thank you. The Lord bless you and bless Unijos indeed.